older we get, the busier our lives become. Our days are filled with work, family, friends, dinner, drinks, travel. We never have time to stop and think. We lose touch with the existential and spiritual questions we pondered in our youth. Until your life takes a wobble, and you're forced to stop and ask, what is the point to it all? Well, this is where I was when a friend of mine convinced me to go to a talk being given by a woman named Dr. Tony Luck. All I knew before I arrived was that Dr. Luck was a psychologist on a popular TV show and that she was a practicing African Hebrew.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. And let me tell you how this came about. I'm a bishop and a pastor, and I'm a very unorthodox one, and I always find myself at odds with other bishops and pastors and preachers about what they think about God. I am a biblical scholar. I have a PhD in Old Testament Bible, but I've also read the Quran, and I've also read the Bhakti Divine, and I've also read other inspirational, religious, spiritual books that give me the sense that God is talking to all those people. There really is one God, and there's one mind that's trying to infiltrate all the busyness in our minds to try to send a message. You know, it's like God to earth, love one another, you know, treat people like you want to be treated. I mean, there's 4 or 5 things that resonate across all these different expressions of God. I'm an African. My family's heritage, it comes through the Hebraic line, which is from Abraham, and Israelite connects me to the land of Israel. So if I had to pick a culture like a Zulu or an Igbo or an Ashanti, that's what I would describe myself as, an African Hebrew Israelite.
I left Dr. Luck's house that day inspired by her tranquility and decided to make this documentary on the African Hebrew culture, religion, or way of life. The African Hebrew people are a group of African Americans who believe that they are descendants of the ancient Israelites. Although they believe they are Jewish by descent, they don't practice Judaism. A few days later, I returned to Dr. Luck's house to speak to her one-on-one.
Your cute sneakers and my shoes. No, I need to put on some red sneakers. Hey, sweetie. My joy. All right.
We're going down here.
I think we're going to start here. And thank you. Well, first of all, good afternoon. My name is Dr. Tony Luck, and we are in my garden in Johannesburg, South Africa. I have a Hebrew name, which is Yif'ah, Y-E-E-F'-A-H, which means splendor and brightness of truth. Actually, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, in the United States, to a Hebraic mother and an African-American father. And to make that clear, both of them were black people in skin color. And I grew up in Brooklyn. So you asked me, how did I come to this understanding with all this eclectic upbringing? I was sitting in a Hebrew class, my first actually, at Yale, and my Hebrew professor, who I'd never seen before, walked up to me and said to me that I was a Hebrew Israelite and that she wanted me to go to Israel. And she was going to arrange for me to go to school in Israel. When my foot hit the ground in Israel for the first time, it was 1991. First time my foot hit the ground, I knew I was home.
Dr. Luck finally found herself living with the African Hebrew community in Dimona. Dimona is a kind of headquarters for the African Hebrew community worldwide. They've created a contained village, or kibbutz, of approximately 3,000 members. After living with the community for almost 11 years, Dr. Luck moved to South Africa for her own personal reasons. And this is where my journey begins. I took some leave from my daily life bought a plane ticket, packed a bag, and went to Israel to live with the African Hebrew community for 3 days.
Well, you know it's wrong, you're so far removed. So what can you do to make it better? And we're so dumbed down.
In Chicago in 1967, a young man named Ben Carter joined the African Hebrew community to try and find a place he belonged, at a time when black was not accepted in America. One night he had a vision from Angel Gabriel, which told him to lead his people home to Israel. Ben Carter later became Ben Ami Ben Israel, the leader, Messiah, and father of the African Hebrew community. When I landed in Israel, I was exhausted after being in transit for almost 2 days and anxious about where I was going and what it was going to be like when I got there. My host, Ariel, seemed to pick up on my anxiety and pretty much left me to my own thoughts. Ariel is a key member of the African Hebrew community, and for the next 3 days, he would be my guide into their world.
Taryn, I'd like to introduce you to Ben Ami HaMashiach, the Anointed.
The first person Ariel introduced me to was none other than Ben Ami Ben Israel himself.
You can come sit over here. My name was Ben Carter, and I was born at 1236 West Washburn in Chicago, Illinois.